Welcome to TotalCast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path.
Hey, Jason and listeners, in my mind, there's nothing more inefficient than taking a huge piece of paper. First of all, you had to lock down a tree for this thing, press it into some sort of milling process, turn it into paper, ship it over to a printing company, have them print this thing out in some sort of variable print machine, stick it in an envelope, which was more paper, inked on top, and then ship that to all these different addresses across the United States by hand. Someone had to deliver it by hand.
You know what's even more inconvenient than that? Is having a person knock on every single person's door in the United States.
Yeah, to follow up with them.
And to take that same piece of paper and follow up with them. You know how much gas? We have the internet.
What a carbon footprint nightmare.
Yeah.
Doing the census here in the United States. And not only is it completely, it's just totally non-environmental, right? Is that the data sucks.
Yeah, data quality.
Data quality is low.
MarketWatch.com says the Census Bureau finding little evidence of falsified data in 2020 population count. That title sounds great, but when we delve into it,
you got to think about the tone of the title.
Right.
Read it one more time.
Census Bureau finding little evidence of falsified data in 2020 population count.
Okay, so the Census Bureau finds little data. They themselves are looking at themselves and we found little data on any sort of, false information.
Well, what they're worried about is the shortened schedule due to COVID jeopardized data quality.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. Census Bureau on Thursday said less than 0.5% of census takers interviewing households for the 2020 head count may have falsified their work, suggesting such problems were few and far between.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. Companies are decentralizing and they're adapting to COVID.
Yeah.
Why hasn't the system that they've done for how many years have they done this?
So long the census has been out.
Why didn't they say, let's find a cheaper, more efficient, more environmental friendly way to do the census that's safe and secure
and more accurate?
Yes. Should we invest in this new thing called blockchain?
Yeah, we probably should. Should we have bought our data pack on census from Tartle as a government?
Yeah, and we could have asked them directly these questions.
And I don't have to send someone to their house. I can just ping them with a notification message.
And so all the money they pay for the postage and the gas and these, what do you call the people that do it? Enumerators or whatever.
Enumerators.
Yeah, enumerators. All this.
It's like a driver.
You could have turned around and paid somebody to fill out the census. How much more would you have gotten if you had incentivized them through Tartle?
Yeah.
To fill out the census.
The census. Rather than having to have someone knock on your door who you don't even know.
Yes.
And you're like, get off my property.
You know how there's a religion that knocks on people's door.
Jehovah's Witness.
Yes. And Mormons.
Yeah. And Mormons.
And people hate that. I don't see them as much around anymore. I think people have gotten away from the, knocking on the door and saying you're going to hell.
It's not a great approach. Yeah, it's not the strongest approach to incentivize someone to do something you want.
Yeah, especially, and I would like to look at the data from the Mormon Church during COVID when they're not having people knock on doors.
Yeah,
see if they still grew or not.
Ask them, did you lose subscribers?
Oh my Lord!
No pun intended.
Hey, I know everybody has different types of religions and stuff like that, and. We love Mitt Romney. He was a Mormon, right? Yeah. We love everyone.
Everyone.
I don't want to be divisive.
Everyone gets the same amount of love here.
Yeah. So whatever type of. I know we're making fun of the Mormons, but
we're not making fun of them. We're just making fun of the process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's a bad process.
Yeah, it's a bad process.
When's the last time of?
Because I love Utah.
What
amazing Salt Lake City. I mean, those temples, the Portland temple.
Think about it, dude. When's the last time British imperialism worked out?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
When's the last time invading someone's country and then forcing them to act in your way?
Yeah, worked out. Yeah.
Can I knock on your door?
We're still having issues.
Can you do our census? No, stranger.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when we get into data quality, the Statistical Agency said in a statement that a preliminary look at the data suggests 0.4% of the hundreds of thousands of census takers may have either falsified data or performed their jobs unsuccessfully.
Dude, are you incentivized to be like, I'm going to put the time into this, or is it just like a thing you do? You know what I mean? Are you going to be like, oh, yeah, I do this, fine. Yeah. Well, I guess I fall into that category. Whatever. I'll check this off. This is me. Oh, they have it marked to the wrong address, but I'll fill it out anyway, even though I moved.
Yeah, but here's the problem, and I want people to understand this, how important the census data is.
Please.
The Census Bureau issued a statement after a report from its watchdog agency Wednesday that expressed concerns over lapses in quality control checks on the data used for deciding how many congressional seats each state gets and how $1.5 trillion in federal funding is distributed each year.
Because
you guys
of the
get that
census.
because of the census?
Yeah. The census is deciding.
You see what bad data does?
It wastes money. It wastes precious resources. And if you wanted that park built and you lied on your census data because you were incentivized to do it properly, and the people analyzing it are saying it's legit when it really isn't,
yes,
park's not going to be there.
Think about that. The census is the filter. These people knocking on your door, it's the filter, not only for your congressional seats, but for $1.5 trillion taxpaying dollars.
Do you even know what a trillion looks like? You couldn't count to it in a lifetime because it's so big.
This is how they distribute it.
This is how it's distributed. It's distributed in the most inefficient manner possible.
So the Office of Inspector General, the lapses raised concerns about the quality of the census data. And this was the report the Office of Inspector General said. The report said the Census Bureau failed to complete 355,000 re-interviews of households to verify their information was accurate. And we're going to get more into this.
That's because they don't want to pay for the person to go out there and go ask them.
Re-interviews also were not conducted with more than a third of the census takers who completed a household interview. And 70,000 cases that were red flagged for re-interviews were given a pass, even though a census clerk was unable to determine if the original interview data was correct.
How do you know if it's correct?
But think about a third of the nation's 130 million households required visits from census takers, while residents in the remaining two-thirds of households self-responded either online, by phone, or by mail.
Yeah.
Because of the failure to conduct their interviews, the Census Bureau can't provide a full picture of the falsification they have made taking place. So where did they come up with this 0.4%?
Yeah. How you mean you can't come up with a clear picture, but you can give me a percentage?
And that was Rob Santos, president of the American Statistical Association.
Yeah.
And he said this, and I love this. Just like with COVID testing, you won't find it if you don't look for it.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And let me ask you something. Why does the U.S. government wait to do the census after whatever body of time and then decide how to put the funds out? Why don't you just on a rolling basis always do a census on people?
Yes. Could you imagine how much it cost them to do 355,000 re-interviews?
Ugh.
And to also have people go talk to 130 million people?
Well, how much time does it take?
How big of a system is that?
The government can do it in 24 hours with Turtle.
Yes.
24 hours?
Yes.
Re-interview whoever you want.
Yeah, and then let's compare that data with your data and see how it goes.
Oh, and by the way, you buy it, we're going to buy it too.
But this is a bigger picture, a big macro picture that I want us to talk about. That's going to help a lot of companies that are listening to this. And I think it just proves Turtle over and over again. The article talks about this. There are other concerns about data quality besides falsification, such as inconsistent responses and the reliance on getting information from neighbors or landlords when residents of a household weren't available. And then Santos, same guy, American Statistical Association, said this: where are the assessments of these aspects of quality? So not only do we have issues of falsification,
but it's actually how the data is
inconsistent
retrieved.
responses.
Yeah.
And then the reliance on getting that information.
So we have the quality of its retrieval, how many holes are actually in the data,
right?
And then trying to fill those holes with what you think is the right answer,
right,
and then giving it out to the public. That does not seem like three strong legs of a stool I would want to sit on.
Would you?
Yeah, would you?
If you were the CEO of the U.S. Census, could you honestly say that that data is accurate?
Yeah, our camera on this tripod would fall over. A tripod.
Yeah.
Oh, I can just rotate it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, like why would you? The government's like, okay, we got a bunch of bad data. How do we give the money out?
And shout out to this Rob Santos. He says this too. They are arguably more important than falsification because they will be more prevalent.
Yeah.
So when you think about data,
I don't care. I don't really care about people falsifying. I just want to make sure that everything else is totally quality.
Because we know data in and of itself doesn't have an opinion.
No.
So it's now we're basing it off of inconsistent responses and the reliance on getting the information.
Yeah.
So we're relying on a human to get that information. And yeah, we've incentivized them, but we've also, how we've incentivized them is to say, well, what if I just fill this form out real quick?
Yeah.
And okay, I got that one done, and then right, I've met my quota.
Or why don't you show them each question and what impact each of those questions has? Right. How is this specific question going to be analyzed?
Yes.
Then the person's like, oh, interesting. So this is going to accrue to parks being built in my area? Oh, cool.
But whenever I look at data quality, and I see these large people amassing this large amounts of data, in the way they get the information, and in this inconsistent responses that they're getting, and then this way that they're getting it nefariously by spying on people with cookies and all that stuff, it's the same situation. The U.S. Census Bureau, to me, yeah, it's a big governmental agency, but it's the same thing that we're looking at when we look at quality of data throughout the world.
Throughout the world, yeah, and all these other companies that are housing this data.
Because we're just doing hunches, bro. We've talked about this over and over again.
Hunches all day long. You know what's great? Like hospitals, they got all this financial bleed, but they say, hey, we're doing really well. Look, we have our own metrics. I'm sure you do. But you're still just gripping to have people come through the front door, aren't you? You really want to bill on that emergency room code.
Yes.
But your net promoter score is 4.78. Big deal.
Yeah, where did those KPIs come from?
They make them up.
Where did that come from?
They make them up.
Yes. So the Associated Press says this, has documented cases of census takers being pressured to enter false information into a computer system about homes they had not visited, so they could close cases during the waning days of the once-a-decade national headcount. Other census takers told the AP that they were instructed to make up answers about households where they were unable to get information. In one instance, by looking in the windows of homes, and another by basing a guess on the numbers of cars in a driveway or bicycles in the yard.
What if I got a party? I'm just saying. And I got 25 cars in the driveway.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm in a depressed socioeconomic area, and people are like, this guy must be loaded.
But, dude, doesn't this show, think about it, Alex, doesn't this show what we've been harping on for the past few years about the data having quality?
All the time.
This is what we talk about.
You have to go to the source. You have to incentivize people at the source to capture quality, truthful information, and don't wait 10 years to do it.
Just because you drive a Prius, we talked about this before, just because you drive a Prius and you go to Cabela's, how is the data supposed to handle that?
Yeah,
unless you
the
ask.
algorithm's like crippling. It's like, they fall into some.
They're supposed to go to REI, not Cabela's.
Yeah, should we send them a Democratic ad or a Republican-based ad? I don't know what they're doing.
And that's the problem we face. And so, what begins to happen when you have these questions?
Yes.
To make a profit, we begin to falsify.
We begin to falsify, and we begin to divide people where they shouldn't be.
And then we begin to make hunches and guesses, and then we pressure data scientists. I know data scientists
to come up with some sort of business intelligence on what this might mean. This might be, and there's tons of holes in the entire data set.
Data scientists, this drug needs to pass.
Yeah, so whatever you got to do.
$80 billion riding on this.
Yeah, I want you to say it's 98% effective. And I don't care how you manipulate it with your pivot tables, just put it in there like that.
And they're not going to say it that way exactly to them, because they know that they would spend an eternity in.
And you know what's cool about Tartle?
In those soft plush gels.
Yeah, the soft plush gels. Multiple companies come in, and they can buy the same data sets. Then they'd be like, No. Let's look at your analysis. Something about that's a little fishy here, because 6 other companies came together and we all bought this, and we all came to this conclusion, and something's off. Something's totally off. And here's the raw data.
That's why Tartle's marketplace is so needed, especially if you're wanting to purchase data from us, because you can sit there and have it go against the data that you've already have.
Yeah.
And analyze it and say, well, we know Tartle's marketplace. We've gone through it extensively. We understand how pure that data is.
Yep.
So let's see if it aligns with your data. Great.
Good for
you. Did a great job.
You're on the right path.
Yes.
If it doesn't, there's some things we got to look at here.
Now I can reverse engineer it and say I have a process that I can use because I have a standard. And so I have a process that I can reverse engineer it, go through it, and decide it, and be able to make a decision. Not a hunch. And guess what's going to happen when you have pure data, since data is the gold of the world. When you have pure data, that decision that you make is going to be accurate and, keyword, everybody listen, $, profitable.
Profitable. Beneficial to you and your customers. Isn't that incredible? Wow, that seems so immensely logical. It's like it gives me a nosebleed.
Yeah, and it's simple.
It is so simple.
The Census Bureau announced it will miss Thursday's deadlines for turning in the numbers used for divvying up congressional seats, but aims to deliver. How many times have you heard that in shareholder? We aim to deliver.
Hold on, let me get my bow out. Hold on, I just got out of my Prius. I got my bow. I'm aiming to deliver. here. You know what I mean?
So now that's a key analogy. I love that. So now I'm dependent on the accuracy of the bow.
Yep.
I'm depending on the person that's shooting the bow. I'm depending on the arrows.
Yes.
If you have a bent arrow, it doesn't matter how accurate you are. If your bowstring's all messed up, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
And if you don't have if no one's ever shot that bow, they can't even pull the bow back hardly.
Yeah.
So this aiming thing,
is ridiculous.
It leads to too many variables. And as a leader of a corporation, why would I want to have that many variables out?
Let me ask you something. I'm holding the mic manually. Why am I waiting to do something? If I can get the information right now, why am I waiting to deliver it? Do I need to come up with some sort of idea in my mind? It is what it is. You don't need to change it into something it is not, or come up with some sort of story saying, oh, this is how we define it, blah, 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 blah. This is our perspective. We're aiming to go this way. No.
Hold your mic again. This is what companies are doing with data. They're just holding it.
They're just holding it. Hold on. And then they're not talking, they're talking to the side, or they're whispering. Let's talk around the thing that we need to do, rather than be like, let's be very clear and direct and truthful with what needs to be said.
And let's use all that data you've been collecting for how many years to make a truthful decision that will help your company serve humanity.
Yeah. Elevate those data sets by actually take your census data and compare it to the Tartle data.
Yes, exactly. And we'd love to have a conversation with you, Census Bureau.
Yeah, bring it up. Let's go.
So now we're going to divvy up congressional seats. And they said, but aims to deliver a population count of each state in early 2021, as close to the missed deadline as possible. And then this is what the Census Bureau Director, Stephen Dillingham, said in 2020.
Good old Dillingham.
A year when the agency was conducting the census amid a pandemic, wildfires, and hurricanes has tested our patience, faith, and strength. But despite all the extraordinary circumstances happening around the world, we have succeeded through the tenacity and creativity of the women and men who work at this extraordinary agency.
Yeah, I bet you have.
What is this, Winston Churchill?
Yeah, what is so extraordinary about you collecting data in the most archaic format possible?
Yeah, when you could have...
And failing to do so accurately. What is extraordinary about that?
Yeah, and those people that helped you and did that and worked through that and had to wear masks and be uncomfortable, I get all that. But why did you put them through all that process?
Yeah, why?
When you have something that is ultra secure, super easy.
I'm like melting in my chair.
It's the same thing when I had to cut the TV off. When I'm watching people in 2021, well, this was last year, 2020, well, they're still doing it now in Georgia and elsewhere, counting ballots by hand.
Yeah, come on.
Where is it? What is this?
You're telling me a human is going to be more consistent than a computer algorithm, first in, first out? Like, that's what it is? Reads it very black and white? What if the person's like, oh, I stuck two pieces of paper together on my fingers because they weren't separating?
And this gets me, too, because I've heard a lot of people say this. Well, I don't trust the computers. Yes, you do. You trust them every single day.
You trust them every single day.
Every time you get into your car.
And you turn it on, that's a computer system.
Every time you get into that airplane.
Yeah. You're trusting a computer system.
Look how many crashes we've had.
Every time you go to a hospital, computer system. Go to work, computer system.
You're trusting thousands of computers every single day in every part of your life, and every single one of those are creating data.
But you and what are you going to do? Count a ballot?
Because you, Mr. CEO, are self-responsible for that data. You're collecting it now. Stop collecting it if you don't want the responsibility.
Yeah. You need to hold responsibility for that information.
You are holding responsibility of millions of people that whether you've tricked and got the data or however you got the data, but you have that responsibility of that data, and that data will help humanity. Yeah, and that is your responsibility.
You have a responsibility to share what you've learned from it.
And it is the responsibility of the Census Bureau. It is the responsibility of every private and public corporation that's out there to understand how important data is.
Yeah. To really see the value in sharing truthful information.
And because what that can do.
Everybody does not need to act like the CIA. No. They don't have to act like the NSA.
No.
The NSA only benefits themselves, the NSA and the CIA. Okay? They keep the information themselves. They don't want other governments to share in that information. They think it gives them some sort of upper hand, but really what it does is it polarizes the world. Yes, there are some aspects of people in the CIA and the NSA that are beneficial, that keep us safe, to things we probably never even realized were a threat.
Yes.
Fantastic. But for the larger majority, the 99% of us and all of our businesses, corporations, globes, enterprises, farms, farmers, whatever it might be, sharing that information, we're going to solve all of our problems so that the NSA really doesn't have to worry about all that crap.
It doesn't have to. Stop collecting data and start using data.
Yeah, start using it. Start using it truthfully.
Yes.
And when you've come to a realization, when you become wise about it, share your wisdom.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to TotalCast with your hosts Alexander McKeag and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path. What's your data worth?